just signal when you want me to start.
Welcome, everyone. It is with the greatest of pleasure that I'm here today with my daughter, Breanna Shepherd. Some of you may know her. On behalf of my mother, Terri Charlesworth. Terri is one of Australia's greatest dancers and educators. And she still continues to strive for excellence in dance in Western Australia. Her passion, her generosity, and her knowledge are amazing. She still comes into the studio and works with our up-and-coming dancers of the future. I would like to pass on to Breanna, who will, in a nutshell, condense 10 minutes of Terri's story.
Thank you for that introduction, Mum. And hello to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here today with you all to tell you a little bit about my grandmother, Terri Charlesworth, a woman who has contributed immensely towards shaping the arts industry in Australia and who throughout her life has developed and been closely involved in the success of hundreds of dancers across the world. I feel like this mic is a little bit low for me, so apologies if you can't hear me. As one of Nana's former students, I can personally attest to her patient tutelage, her knowledge and her passion, which ultimately led to my brief success of sorts in ballet. I had a bit of a short career there. While difficult to truly quantify the reach and impact Nana has had on the art world, I am confident in saying that she was a trailblazer, a force, and one hell of an inspiration for myself, that's for sure. The training she provided me has truly set me up with a foundation that I feel like I've been able to build upon in other things that I've gone on to do in my life, including my journalism and presenting at the ABC. So now to Nana. She was born in Perth on the 23rd of March, 1936, to Terri Charlesworth, Terri, and it was her mother, Ellen Charlesworth, who instilled in her a love for music and dance. In 1945, at the age of 9, Nana began her dance training in Melbourne, and she's often spoken of her teachers at that time, contributing them for her success, including Kira Busloff, who danced with the Ballet Russe before settling in Australia, and her then husband, Serge Busloff. Now, a very young Terri Charlesworth joined the West Australian Ballet Company for its inaugural season in 1953. She was a founding member of the company, and she's now remembered as WA's first prima ballerina. In 1957, at 21, Nana was chosen to represent Australia at the International Arts Competition in Moscow. Now, her performance was a solo piece, and it was titled The Brolga, and it was choreographed by Kira Busloff with guidance from TV personality and environmental consultant Harry Butler. Her performance won her the Ulanova Laureate Prize, chosen for the award by Galina Ulanova herself, the Russian dancer who's frequently cited as being one of the greatest ballerinas of the 20th century. Now, it was this trip to Moscow that I think perhaps shaped Nana's future more than she could have known at the time. While in Russia, Nana saw for the first time the training methods at the Bolshoi Ballet School, which she studied intently. This would later lay the foundation for Nana's passion and motivation to become the first teacher to introduce the Russian Vaganova method of classical ballet training to Australia. And this is which my mum will go on and explain a little bit later about that training. Now, from Russia, Nana then spent time dancing and touring Italy and China before continuing her training in London in 1958. She returned to Australia the following year, and in 1959 she was promoted to ballerina with the West Australian Ballet Company. So in effect, this was the first principal dancer of the company. A year later, Nana was appointed assistant director of WA Ballet Company, where she remained until 1967. Now, 1960 saw another very significant milestone in my Nana's life. It was the year her first daughter, first child, Sonya, was born. And it was also the year that my Nana established the Terri Charlesworth School of Ballet, a rich teaching and dancing institution which continues today. Continuing now on Nana's life and career, from 1960, when she founded the Terri Charlesworth Ballet School, Nana put her energies into establishing the school while still continuing to work with WA Ballet at that time. Here are some of her students who are performing, and up here now are two Russian dancers who have come over and performed with the school quite often, with one of their students, Yulia and
Yuri.
Both lovely, lovely dancers. So in 1970, Nana was employed by the Ministry of Education to introduce and teach classical ballet as an optional subject at Scarborough Beach High School. So this was one of the first times that this was done in a school setting. It was this that actually inspired the formation of the Graduate College of Dance, which Nana co-founded with Margita Shudziak in 1972. So the college offered WA's first tertiary level course in dance, recognised under the Commonwealth Tertiary Allowance Scheme. This meant that you could do what you needed to do in terms of getting the dance training you needed, but you could also further your basic school education, which is really, really important. A year later, Nana was appointed a member of the dance panel of the Australian Council for the Arts. Now, Nana had never forgotten all this time that Vaganova training she'd seen in Russia years before when she'd first gone over there. She continued to pursue her own personal studies into the technique. And then in 1977, she was invited by the former USSR's Ministry of Culture to spend 2 months studying in Russia. She visited a number of the country's significant teaching establishments, including the prestigious Kirov Vaganova Ballet Academy, where I think she truly began to understand the need for intensive training from a young age to ensure that students are provided with the best possible chance to make it in the dance world. So later that same year, in 1977, Nana established the Junior Professional course, which was WA's first really rigorous training course for talented students aged 10 to 17 years old. So it gave them that pathway if they did want to go and further a career in dance while still also undergoing their education. In 1978, Nana represented WA at the first national conference of the Australian Conference of the Australian Association for Dance Education, today known as AusDance, where she was appointed WA's coordinator. Her pioneering dance efforts continued a year later when she founded one of the first contemporary dance companies here in WA, Connecticut's Dance Theatre, where she was appointed artistic director. Although Nana's reputation locally was already established by this stage, word of her had begun travelling internationally, and in 1980 she jetted off to Hong Kong, where she produced the ballet Coppelia for the Hong Kong Ballet Company. Later that year, the Graduate College of Dance performed the Christmas classic, The Nutcracker, which Nana produced in the newly refurbished His Majesty's Theatre. The success of the school's production of The Nutcracker saw Nana turn her talents to producing Coppelia again a year later, again at His Majesty's Theatre. Now, that production was a highlight for WA audiences at the time. Nana flew in guest artists from Hungary to do the lead roles, and the season run was an all-out success that led to record-breaking box office sales. Now, it was around this time that Nana also began organising overseas study tours for dance students in WA. Nana has long been a pioneer of this aspect, always believing students need to travel and engage in studying nationally and internationally to reach their potential. She also strongly believed in enriching the education of students by exposing them to internationally renowned teachers, who she brought to WA on a regular basis. Guest teachers included Carlos Garcio from Vienna, Marika Bezobrasova from Monte Carlo, Irina Kolpakova from the Kirov Vaganova Academy, Evgeny Velukin from Moscow, and most recently, Yuri Vasilkov, who has continued to come and teach the students throughout the years. I remember having Yuri every year. Nana was appointed as a classical ballet teacher at the Australian Ballet School in 1982, And it was there that she also introduced the Russian Vaganova method that she so strongly believed in. Once again, her reputation preceded her, and she was invited to Japan in 1987, this time to conduct a seminar of classical ballet for the Matsuyama Ballet Company and School. From there, she went on to Hong Kong to produce and choreograph another production, this time Cinderella, for the Hong Kong Ballet. The following year, Nana travelled to Monte Carlo, and this was where she took up her position for a short time as a classical ballet teacher at the L'Académie de Danse Classique de Princesse Grace, a name that I have definitely butchered, so apologies for that. But very prestigious, internationally renowned classical ballet academy run by the esteemed Marika Bezobrasova. 2 years later, Nana's quest for delivering the best dance education continued when she established the dance performance course at Swanbourne Senior High School for year 11 and 12. Upon request by the Curriculum Council of WA, Nana wrote the registered subjects of ballet studies for year 11 and 12 students, which was a first for the state, giving students the opportunity to study ballet full-time, along with continuing their formal schooling in those later years, so that 11 and 12. Nana was awarded the Order of the Medal of Australia in 1994 for her contribution to dance, the West Australian Citizen of the Year for Arts and Culture in 2006, and the Ausdance Lifetime Award in 2012. Now, despite all of those wonderful accolades, and there's many more, it's the warmth and joy Nana feels most when she sees her former students succeed and excel in their own right as dancers and teachers, and their love and passion for dance. This detailed description has not captured everything that Nana has done or all that she is, as there are many more awards and accolades over the years. But I think it's all a representation of a woman that has never stopped learning, sharing, and investing in a love for classical ballet. She still continues to work with students today with a patience and belief that everyone can experience the joy of dance. Sorry, I get emotional because she is pretty impressive. Yeah. I'll leave you now and I'll pass back over to Mum, who can tell you a bit more about that Vaganova technique. And I think she's got 2 of her students as well who are going to come over so you can have a little bit of a look.
So thank you very much, Breanna. Yes, so look, it was a question of where we would go from here as a presentation. And I thought what may be interesting for an audience is to maybe visually see and see if there is the capacity for a greater understanding of why the Vaganova training is regarded still as the best training method for the young athlete, the young dancer, for a career in classical ballet. So I have 2 students here, a young male, 12-year-old Stanley, who is in his 2nd year of full-time training, and then young Christy, 11 years old, in her 1st year of full-time training. So what happened when Terri retired, I decided, with all of her encouragement and support, to actually go one step further and develop a full-time training program within WA that catered for the 10-year-old to 17-year-old, combining their academic studies. So this is now delivered under Youth Ballet WA, which is clearly a development of all of Miss Charlesworth's efforts. So I'm going to call Stanley and Christy up. I probably need a mic. Is that okay? That one? Do I... I think they're both a little bit nervous, yeah. But anyway, so look, with regards to the Vaganova training, it was a syllabus that wasn't just devised by the dancer itself. It had a lot of sports doctors, even scientists, develop the training program with the former dancers, yes? So anyway, their philosophy is that we needed to get the bodies young. So what we do is we look at the 8-year-old, and for 2 years, from around 8, 9 and 10, we do a very gentle program where we would focus on what we call a floor bar. So if you both want to just sit on the floor. Now, very, very simply, they would start in a position with their legs, now we call parallel, yeah? The classical ballet is done in a rotated position, an en dehors position. We certainly, at this age, we definitely start to develop that. But in the first 2 years, we do not push the young bodies in this en dehors and load in this position. So we do things where we would develop their postural strength, yes. So we would focus on the length of their spine, the use of the abdominals, the feeling of the legs lengthening as far away as possible. We would talk about things like we need complete muscle engagement, even in an 8-year-old. So we would use little things like, okay, come on, you've got a little bridge under there, little gap. We need to get every single muscle long so there's no gap under the knee, yeah? Ultimately, the heels would come slightly off the floor. So we would develop a lot of work this way. We'd lay them on the floor. We'd work the leg in what we call a parallel position. We would then start to develop on the floor, not standing. So if you move over a little bit, Christy. And we would then start to work the range of rotation within the hips, but within the floor. So if you both go to straddle for me. So the idea would be not standing and putting a lot of stress, yeah? And again, there would be, with the very knowledgeable teachers, there would be the gentle coaxing, yeah, of moving, yeah, the legs back. Again, as a very experienced teacher, you can feel when there's movement in the muscle or not, yeah? So we would work that within a whole series of exercises, yeah? So this is our en dehors, our base for classical ballet, yeah? Because it's all created in our turned out position, yeah? Contemporary, different, still needs skills, still needs strength, but that's more in a parallel, yeah? The ballet is more in the turned out. Then, of course, we need to work on the strength in the ankles. And again, if we put the young dancer, too young, even if they have a lot of the flexibility, standing, better not touch that, and in this position, and they do not have the strength in their ankles, there will be issues. So we can work that strength in this position on the floor. And that again is working through the Achilles, round the ankle joints. Again, discussing things like, because again these days, actually very interesting, I started teaching in 1978, and I am finding more and more and more as the years go on, the young people that are presenting are having many more challenges than the kids back then. They're a lot weaker, there's a lot less core, a lot less upper body strength. And one of the biggest things is this not length in the toes. And I'm wondering if that's a result of us never out of shoes anymore. So there's some really interesting things. We're never playing as much now. We're not hanging upside down using our core on the monkey bars. There's some real significant differences, even into, actually, guys, relax, sorry, I'm aware. Even what's presenting more and more now, and I would say it's possibly still a product of, Western society, is we are really developing a real weakness, and this is one of the strengths we need as a dancer, our psoas muscle. That is very weak because we're sitting a lot, and then of course we're not got the strength through the upper part of the body. So interestingly enough, way back when I did get all my material, I was very lucky also to go to St. Petersburg and study at the Vaganova Academy. But their material that I got was fabulous. But what I'm starting to see now is we almost need a undo the bodies a little bit more to get them prepared to be able to start. So look, within the Vaganova, basically it is about understanding, you can both stand up now, thank you very much, understanding that the classical ballet technique, every single step is derived from a demi-plie. Do you both want to? Normally they start this demi-plie at the bar. I can be your bar if you want, or you're okay. Yeah? So a demi-plie, so demi-plie kids. So again, the idea is to get the maximum depth, maximum width, yeah? And also use the time, because it builds strength. Yes, so not quick, yeah? Using the time. You can come up now. And the other one is the tendu. So you always study the demi-plie first, and then a tendu. Just do a tendu devant, guys. Yeah? Yeah. So classical ballet, would you believe, this and the demi-plie and the tendu, everything you see, you can relax now, thank you. Everything you see is derived from that. Everything on the stage. Yeah? Yeah? From this plie and from a tendu. So one other thing that I think is very important to share, and then we go to questions if you want, is that what I think the most exciting thing I got from my mother, and it was much later on in life. I was very immature youngster, took me a while, but was the fact that she was so much into the quality, which that's why she loved the Vaganova so much, yeah, the quality. But she took it one step further. And I find and maybe we'll see this in Stanley. Stanley, if you stand in fifth in a quasi for me. So, again, we're not exactly warm at the moment either. We've been out there, but he's doing, so we've really got to try and get full stretch, yeah? Now, we can stand here and have a quality that is okay. Or we can try and talk about with the young dancer, yeah, of the quality of, okay, how flat are your toes? Yeah? How much can you feel your feet on the floor? Are you feeling your calf muscles? So we're getting a better quality of the positioning. Now what about the total difference? And this then produces your artistry, because you've got quality of muscle movement, quality of muscle knowledge, and that creates a great artistry. Yeah? And that is one thing that I am very, very passionate about. Yeah, you can relax. Sorry, Stanley. So, Youth Ballet WA, we do take the kids young. We are very passionate about education. They work out of schooling, of isolated distant ed, but we are extremely mindful about developing them as a whole person. We do perform a lot. We actually have a performance coming up at the State Theatre called Integrate. And even within that performance, as part of their education. And this year, more importantly, the boys are involved in that. We have teamed up with Clontarf, and we have 16 young boys who are working with, how many of their young boys? About 10?
That's like 7.
All right, 7. And our boys are learning Stanley, quickly tell me a very quick brief. We are doing a welcome to country as a performance, with our boys included, working within these young First Nation boys under the guidance of, of the name, sorry. Anyway, Stanley, what is there for you, something that you find exciting about that?
Well, I get to learn what they do, because all the time I'm practicing what we do, but we're not doing what they used to do. We're not doing what they did. I get to be proud that I'm doing something that belongs to them and it's not just us.
So this performance is called Integrate. It is definitely about integrating. We are also working with Girraween that have an amazing school dance program. Their strengths are in hip hop. So we've got our ballerinas integrating and doing hip hop. And you should see them do hip hop. You should see them. So anyway, that program's coming up. But again, this is so much a part of their education. Yeah, that it is the whole person we are trying to develop. And of course, that's getting more challenging and more challenging, as we all know. And I suppose I can only thank my mum for that, really, can't I? Maybe my dad too, I should. Yeah? Anyway, thank you. Thank you. You stay here in case they want to ask you some questions. Are there any questions? Yes?
Well, just a curiosity question. Did your mother ever dance with Rudolf Nureyev?
No. So interestingly enough, Rudolf Nureyev, guess what? I did. I was an extra. Oh, I certainly didn't. I was an extra with Festival Ballet when they came. It was Romeo and Juliet, 1978, I think, at the Entertainment Centre. I was in that. With Rudolph. And he was, unfortunately, by then, he was, yeah. Anyway.
That was the only time I saw Nureyev dance, and I was kind of a bit disappointed.
Yes.
Because I thought the Australian boys were doing
Yes,
marvellously well.
yes. Unfortunately, I followed because I, as a 17-year-old, went on to study at Marika Bezzabrazova School, Princess Grace School in Monte Carlo. And Marika, I got very friendly with Marika. I used to go back all the time. And Nureyev actually used to go to Marika to get what he would call his little fix of getting his body back. He actually left his dog to Marika Bezzabrazova. So look, it's interesting. I did get to know a lot, but that was, it wasn't a great performance for him. And Perth audiences literally booed him because of, because of even the way he treated his, and she was a beautiful ballerina, up-and-coming ballerina from what was then Festival Ballet, it's now English National Ballet, and just sort of dragging her up at the bed on the end. So he needed her in the curtain calls to get his big, So it as a youngster, like, wow, what an opportunity. It was sad. But anyway, Oh, wrap up. Got to wrap up? Wrap up. Thank you very much.